Welcome back, survivor. If you can hear this, it means you're still alive. This is Jack's Nightmares, and this is your next story. Evelyn's asleep. Amori just finished her perimeter check and swapped out the battery on camera 2. The dogs are on the second floor, by the pet food racks. That's where they usually sleep now. Cool air, quiet, no people. I'm sitting in the break room. We turned into a map center, staring at a blank sheet of notebook paper and with the same box of crackers in my hand that I was eating yesterday. It's day 199. The front door's sealed. We made it look like it collapsed inward weeks ago. Shelving units twisted against the frame. Bloodstains, fake and real, spread near the entry mats. Mannequins in ripped clothes hung on bent poles near the checkout area. At first it kept nothing out. Just brought every infected in a 5-mile radius right to our door. But after a few weeks, when the noise died down and nothing new came inside, it started to work. Raiders pass us up. Most think the whole store's been overrun. It hasn't. We live here. Me, Evelyn, Amori. Then later, Travis, Mia, Carlos and Brent. And the dogs, Luna and Dexter. Evelyn found them limping out of the mall loading dock when she and Amori went out for batteries. She wouldn't leave them. They've been part of this place since day 52. But to make it clear, I guess I should go back and tell you how it all went down. Back before the sirens, I was working remote, security consulting for a logistics hub on the edge of town. That morning I got encrypted pingbacks from our internal alert system. Wording was vague. Civil unrest possible. Protest risk. Chemical alert pending. The kind of early flag we'd usually ignore unless a real location popped up. This time it did. Several. Near our school district. I called Evelyn. Told her I'd swing by early. Pick her and Amori up just in case. She didn't ask questions. Neither did Amori. They both had been seeing the same warning posters I had. CDC maps with flu response guidelines posted at the school entrances. Health department vans parked outside, pretending to do outreach. We never made it back home. Not the way we planned. We stopped at Costco on the way. I figured we could load up before the shelves got stripped. I'd seen the pattern play out before. Online buzz, a few real alerts. People get twitchy, then it explodes. We got inside fast. Carts were loaded. Water, canned goods, propane, batteries, meds. I even grabbed a new inverter and solar rig. We were halfway to the checkout when the announcement hit. Stores closing. Emergency shutdown. No explanation. Security came out of the back. Started yelling at people to leave the carts behind. One guy got thrown to the ground near the tire center trying to argue. We didn't wait. We left with what we could carry. Less than 10 minutes later, that truck hit us. Driver was bleeding from the face, half slumped over the wheel. Rammed us at the corner of Westford and Lincoln. Airbags blew. Evelyn was unconscious. Amori screaming about her leg. I had to break the rear glass with a tire iron just to drag them out. We didn't know what the driver was. Not yet. But when he came stumbling after us, mouth open, pieces of skin missing from his jaw, I didn't wait to ask questions. I pulled Evelyn up, carried Amori over my back, and ran. No one stopped to help. Streets were nearly empty. A few distant screams. Sirens far off. No cops. No fire trucks. We went back to the Costco. I knew the rear employee door was likely left unlocked during an evac. I was right. We slipped in just before nightfall. But alarm triggered. It didn't stop for hours. Just echoed through the city, bouncing off walls and shattered windows. Automated speaker kept looping some ridiculous message. Unauthorized entry detected. Like that mattered anymore. I killed it the only way I knew how. Ripped open the fuse panel with a hammer and yanked every cable I could find. Then smashed the speaker system one unit at a time. The PA system took longer. I had to climb into the ceiling in the garden center to cut the main wire. By then, dozens of infected were outside. I saw them through the front glass, pressed up like static. Just blank faces, twitching fingers, some still in uniforms. One wore a fireman's jacket. Another had a grocery apron. We moved to the pharmacy, locked ourselves inside. Evelyn had woken up, but she was confused. Kept asking if it was a drill. Amori's leg was shredded. Glass from the crash cut through the calf muscle. She was in shock. I found antibiotics, gauze, and painkillers. Cleaned the wound as best I could, then taped her leg with elastic wraps and tied her ankle to a broomstick to immobilize it. She bit down on a box of cotton swabs while I worked. That was the first night. We didn't sleep. Not really. The infected stayed outside, banging sometimes, other times just standing there. By day 3, the food we took from the carts was mostly gone. I started organizing shelves, setting up a ration plan. Evelyn helped when she could. Amori stayed in the pharmacy. We cleared a path to the bakery and sealed ourselves in the walk-in freezer with sleeping bags and thermal blankets. No power in there, so it wasn't cold, just quiet, too quiet. Around day 6, the infected stopped moving. They just stood near the doors. Not dead, not leaving, like they were waiting. I turned the store into a maze, pushed shelves into choke points, cleared emergency exits and turned the garden center into a fallback point. We never left, not for a long time. There were no helicopters, no drones, no flashing lights. By day 12, the air was still. Evelyn asked if we should try the radio. We tried. Static. AM, FM, UHF. I found a crank radio in the camping section. It had a weather band. Noah looped the same message on repeat for 5 days before cutting off entirely. Day 15, I found the tunnel. A low-maintenance corridor running behind the loading docks. It connected the freezer areas, mechanical rooms, and electrical closets. At the end was a stairwell. That led up to the roof. We cleared it, locked it from inside, stacked it with water jugs, fuel cans, and emergency tools. That tunnel became our lifeline. By day 30, I started laying traps, made pressure plates using pallet weights and fire alarms, hung tin cans on fishing line, built a warning grid with bells and copper wire taken from stripped extension cords. We stayed quiet, no fires, no lights at night. On day 42, Evelyn left a bowl of food near the south entrance. That's when Luna showed up, blood on her hind leg, limping, ribs showing. She barked once. That brought Dexter. Bigger, slower, but alert. They stayed, guarded the back area like it was theirs from the start. Day 50, I left. Took a mountain bike from Sporting Goods. Rode 8 miles to my old workplace, a distribution warehouse. Figured I could find more traps, motion detectors, tools. I followed back roads most of the way, stuck to alleys, service routes, empty parking lots. Didn't cross any major intersections. Had the folding map from the glove compartment, kept it tucked in the side pouch of my jacket. A lot of the street signs had been knocked down or tagged over. I didn't trust GPS anymore. Not after what happened when we tried that on day 12. Got us nearly caught at a flooded underpass. 2 infected crawling around in the debris. I had to bash one's head in with a crowbar before it got to Evelyn. The city looked dead. Not destroyed, not flattened or burned. Just dead. Stores locked up. Cars parked crooked. Some doors open. A few were covered in moss or grime like they hadn't moved in months. One had a pair of arms hanging out the driver's side. Not moving. I didn't stop to check. Took me 4 hours to make it to the warehouse. The main gate was closed, but one side had been knocked partially off its hinges. A delivery van had smashed through it at some point and now sat dead in the middle of the driveway. No glass in the windows. Front end crumpled. I lifted the bike over the edge and pushed forward slowly, head on a swivel. The air smelled like old oil and wet cardboard. I kept one hand near the grip of my sidearm. Small 9mm I'd pulled from the security office in the Costco during our second week. Only had 2 mags for it, so I didn't fire unless I had to. I stepped around the van and scanned the shipping dock. No movement. Then I heard the scraping. Metal on concrete. Not fast, not loud, I backed up, ducked behind a forklift, and waited. A few seconds passed. Then someone whispered something low and sharp. Another voice answered. Human, not infected. I waited a little longer, then made a slow approach along the wall. Peered through a crack between the corrugated metal doors. Saw movement inside. 4 people. One was stacking crates. Another had a rifle over his shoulder. The third looked like she was organizing a medkit on a shipping pallet. Fourth was sitting on an overturned cooler, sharpening something that looked like a broken machete. I stepped out and made sure my hands were visible. Didn't raise my voice. Just said, I used to work here, not looking for trouble. They all froze. No one raised a weapon, but the one with the rifle kept his hand close. After a long pause, the woman with the medkit nodded toward me. Said her name was Mia. She was an EMT before everything. She asked what I wanted. I told her I had people, a shelter, food, water. We just needed more sensors, wiring, tools. I wasn't there to take anything from them. Said I'd trade if I had to. Told the truth. I had no leverage and I knew it. The man with the rifle finally spoke. Travis. Used to work in shipping. Said he remembered me. We'd met a few times back when I did security walkthroughs. I didn't remember him, but I said I did. It helped. They let me in, showed me around. They'd turned the loading bay into a sleeping area, blocked all the roll-up doors with shipping containers and stacked tire racks. One corner had shelves of canned food and vacuum-sealed emergency packs. It wasn't much, enough for a few more weeks maybe. There was a generator, barely running, and a few car batteries wired up to a switchboard. Most of the lights were off. They didn't have solar, only fuel from old landscaping trucks they siphoned before those ran dry. I asked how long they'd been there. Travis said since the 2nd week. Carlos, big guy with thick arms and grease-stained gloves, said he'd barricaded himself in the tool shop when the outbreak hit. Said he never left. Brent, the quiet one, didn't say much at all. Just kept looking at me like he was waiting for me to lie. Mia looked tired. Her hands were shaking even when she wasn't moving. I could tell she'd seen things. Probably lost someone. I didn't ask. I told them about the Costco, how we'd reinforced it, set up motion sensors, built traps, made a safe room. I told them about the basement and the roof hatch, about the food, the pharmacy, the dogs. I didn't exaggerate, just gave the facts. They listened. Carlos asked how we kept it safe. I explained how the infected outside had become our camouflage, how people assumed the building was lost, how we made it look that way. Travis said that was smart. Brent still didn't say anything. After a long pause, Mia asked if I was serious about letting others join. I said I wouldn't have offered if I wasn't. Told her we couldn't guarantee safety, just better odds. They spent the night thinking it over. I stayed in the tool shed, slept on a pile of padded mats next to a shelf full of paint thinner, locked the door from inside, woke up every couple hours to check the window. Next morning, they were packed. Travis carried the rifle and a duffel bag. Mia had a small backpack carefully packed with med supplies and a few ration bars. Carlos had 2 full totes and a tool belt. Brent carried a single box, but I saw the butt of a short-barrel shotgun sticking out the side. We left early, took the same route back, avoided main roads, rode in pairs. They brought 2 handcarts loaded with supplies. I pushed my bike most of the way, couldn't ride through the broken asphalt and scattered glass. Midway through the trip, we heard a noise, sharp metal dragging, not the usual infected shuffle. Then came the barking, high-pitched, scared. Turned the corner and saw them, 2 dogs pinned against a garage door, 6 infected closing in. One was crawling, legs twisted beneath it, but still moving fast. Another had a bent steel rod through its side, didn't slow it down at all. Mia shouted. Travis raised his rifle. I told him not to shoot unless necessary. Sound carries. We charged instead. Carlos used a rusted shovel. I used the crowbar. Travis got one with a silent takedown, butcher knife to the base of the skull. The dogs bolted after we cleared the area, but not far. They circled, tails low, eyes wide. I tossed a piece of dried meat from my pack. They stopped, sniffed, then crept closer. Mia knelt down and held her hand out. One of them came, shivering but not aggressive. The other followed. We took them both. When we reached the Costco, I knocked the entry code into the side door keypad. The infected outside hadn't moved, still moaning, still scratching at the fake barricades. We entered through the back. Evelyn and Amori were waiting, both armed. I introduced everyone, told them what happened. It wasn't easy at first. Evelyn didn't trust Brent, neither did Amori. He kept to himself, slept in the camping section, ate alone, watched everyone. But things settled. We set up new shifts, used the tools we brought to wire in more sensors, extended the tripwires, created a fallback alarm system that lit up the toy section when triggered. We ran cable through the rafters, mounted old security cameras on the garden center roof, powered them with the solar panels Travis helped carry. Carlos set up a switchboard, wired in LED lights made from holiday decorations and portable lanterns. The basement became command. We divided it into 3 areas: sleep, storage, and access. The emergency hatch to the roof was cleared and reinforced with steel bars taken from shelving units. One route out, no other way in. The dogs stayed near Evelyn, followed her everywhere. She named the new ones Brutus and Shade. Brutus was strong, heavy paws, missing an ear. Shade was lean, skittish, sharp-eyed. They worked as scouts. We used them to sweep before entering rooms. They were more than just early warnings. They could pick up infected before we did, through smell maybe, or the way the air shifted. Shade would freeze at a hallway corner, ears twitching, and we'd know to wait. Brutus didn't bark much, but he would stand his ground, body tense. If either one of them backed up, we didn't push forward. We cleared new zones of the store that had been blocked off since the first month. The seasonal section still had stacked plastic bins full of sealed holiday gear. We stripped the wiring out of artificial trees, pulled motors from toy trains, scavenged extension cords, and used their copper cores to replace failing sensor lines. The furniture display area gave us extra cots, cushions, and shelving. We used flat-pack storage units to build a small divider wall in the basement. Amori finally had a place to sleep that didn't feel like a storage closet. Brent suggested moving a few pallets upstairs to create a backup barricade behind the garden center. We built it using warehouse-style shelving, bolted steel frames and crossbeams locked together with pipe clamps. It wouldn't stop a truck, but it'd hold against anything less. Every improvement felt earned. Nothing came easy. One of the solar panels cracked during a roof adjustment. Carlos had to take apart 2 LED projectors just to rewire a stable converter. He didn't complain, just took a strip of denim, wrapped it around his burned fingers, and kept working. Evelyn organized our stock. She built a wall chart of expiry dates and used color-coded tags to mark cans, boxes, and medical supplies. She rationed soap, toilet paper, and antiseptic wipes like it was gold. She even created a simple rulebook, written in black marker on a plywood board, that outlined how many calories each person got based on workload and shift length. We didn't have arguments about it. Everyone understood. If someone slacked off, they adjusted their intake. If someone pulled double shifts, they got extra. No one abused it, even Brent. The dogs helped ease the silence. Shade would curl under the table in the break room and nap during downtime. Brutus took to sleeping on the stairs down to the basement hatch. Nothing got past him without a growl. Still, things weren't calm. Camera 3 caught that figure on day 74. A man in a tan jacket, backpack slung over one shoulder, rifle across his chest. Not a looter. He moved like someone trained, swept his corners, checked reflections, stayed low behind cover. He didn't try the doors, didn't get too close, just watched. We tracked him for about 30 minutes, Then he moved off screen and didn't come back. Next day, we caught 2 more on camera too. No insignias, no flags, no matching gear. One had a compound bow. The other carried a shotgun with a side-folding stock. They kept distance from the infected, walked a wide arc around the building like they knew what they were doing, like they had maps. Amori and Brent took first watch that night. No one slept. Evelyn moved all our essential gear closer to the basement hatch. Mia packed emergency medkits. Carlos tightened every bolt he could find on our barricades. I rechecked the traps, reset the pressure plates, added fresh fishing line to the trip zones. For 3 nights, nothing. Then on the 4th, Brutus started growling around 3 a.m. not loud. Just that low, steady noise that meant someone, or something, was too close. I pulled up the feed from camera 4. Static. I tapped the side of the monitor. It cleared for a second, then froze on a frame that showed someone crouching near the propane cages outside. They weren't stealing propane. They were placing something. I didn't know what, but I wasn't going to wait. I woke Travis and Brent. We took the tunnel, climbed to the roof and set up position near the HVAC stacks. Couldn't risk a spotlight. Used scoped optics and waited. About 20 minutes later, movement near the back fence. Someone crawling through the gap in the debris pile. Then another. I counted 4 total, all armed. One of them had a handheld radio. They weren't scavengers. We didn't engage. We stayed still, watched, waited. After about an hour, they moved off. We waited another hour before going back down. Next morning, I found the device, tucked behind a cinder block near the propane rack. It was a homemade mic, wired to a battery pack and mounted inside a foam coffee cup. Range was short, but it meant they were listening, tracking voices, looking for sound patterns. That kind of setup didn't belong to drifters. We blacked out all upper windows, rerouted our camera cables deeper inside, shut down exterior sensors during daylight to conserve power, only activated the full perimeter at night. From that point, we began doubling down. We built a fake breach along the western corridor, smashed glass from broken display cases, dragged 2 mannequins into torn clothing, left a trail of dried blood and urine from the meat locker to the toy section, made it look like someone died in there and infected got in. We posted warning symbols on the glass. We also expanded the garden center, used forklifts to reposition old pallets, crates, and overturned garden sheds to create a second wall, angled out toward the parking lot. It didn't just look ruined, it looked like the place had already been taken. No one walking past would guess anything inside was still running. Evelyn had the idea to loop audio on an old Bluetooth speaker, just low growls and shrieks recorded from the first month before the front glass was sealed. We placed the speaker above the outer ledge on a broken flagpole bracket. Every night at random intervals, it played a few seconds of noise, enough to draw the infected back toward the front doors. Keep the illusion alive. It worked. On day 81, a small group of 5 infected wandered into the lot. 2 stayed, pacing around the glass. The others moved off. A day later, the number grew to 9. On day 85, someone approached again, this time in broad daylight. He didn't come close, just stood near a wrecked sedan about 60 yards from the southern loading dock, looked through binoculars for a while, wrote something down, then walked off. I knew what that meant. They were planning something, not an attack, something more methodical, maybe to flush us out, maybe to lure infected in, maybe both. We prepped countermeasures. Carlos rigged a fake explosion setup, paint thinner, aerosol cans, wiring, and wired it to a trip line at the front gate. Wouldn't kill anyone, but it would throw flame and light, enough to scatter a group or distract the infected. Brent built a fallback barricade inside the entrance to aisle 12, giant storage bins filled with broken glass and sharp metal scrap. If anyone tried to rush that section, they'd slow down or get shredded. We didn't talk about what we'd do if people got in. But we all knew. We rotated night shifts. No one slept more than 3 hours in a row. The dogs sensed our tension. They moved less, stuck closer to our feet, and took turns patrolling the floor level. Then, day 89 came, and everything went quiet. No movement outside, no shapes on camera, no shadows. Even the infected drifted away by the end of the day. The lot was empty. That's when Evelyn made the call. We needed to test our outer traps, see if anything had been disabled. We couldn't sit blind while someone possibly breached the perimeter. So I volunteered, took Brent with me. We suited up, padded jackets, tactical gloves, reinforced boots. No noise. Moved slow, hand signals only. Brutus came too. We exited through the rear hatch just after sundown, used the cover of the debris wall to mask our silhouettes, scanned every corner, no movement, no signs of life. The blood slick on the western window display had dried and flaked. The mannequins looked more like corpses now. The garden center's outer wall was still intact. Nothing shifted. No tampering with the aluminum gate. Carlos's tripwire was untouched, but the alley between the propane racks and the outdoor fertilizer bin looked different. At first, I thought it was just wind-blown trash. But then, I saw the footprint. Not a boot print. A shoe. Athletic tread. Deep and clear in the dirt. Less than 12 hours old. Facing the building. No outbound print next to it. Just one. Sharp and deliberate. I scanned the fence line. Brent crouched and adjusted the lens on his handheld scope, sweeping slowly. I reached into my vest and pulled out the small infrared thermometer. It wasn't much, but if there had been a human nearby in the last hour, the heat signature would linger faintly on metal or stone. I checked the nearest pipe leading toward the loading dock, warm to the touch, too warm for the hour. We retreated back through the staff hallway. Inside, the dogs were already alert. Brutus was standing in front of the basement stairs, ears up, jaw clenched. Shade was on the mezzanine shelf, tail stiff, staring through the cracked upper vent into the parking lot. They weren't barking, just waiting. Evelyn met us at the bottom of the steps. Mia was with her, holding one of the shortwave radios in both hands. Evelyn looked at me, then at Brent. I showed her the footprint photo. She didn't blink, just said, "Upstairs, now." We regrouped in the map room. Carlos had the drone map unrolled on the main table. Old aerial recon he stitched together from when he still had a working drone in the first month. Now we marked it with colored thumbtacks and grease pencil. Brent placed a new marker at the rear propane cage. I drew a quick sketch of the shoe tread and laid it next to the last strip we found, the 4 tag. Evelyn cleared her throat and got our attention. She pointed to a blank section of the Northwest Industrial Park on the map. Then she took a strip of green tape and marked a new number, X4. We hadn't used that designation before. She kept her voice even. They're flagging locations, numbering them. Maybe they think we're a supply cache, or they're planning routes. Mia leaned forward. Or it's a target list. No one answered. For the next 2 hours, we scrubbed every line of exposed cable inside the store. We rewrapped connections with weatherproof tape, moved the solar battery cells 2 aisles deeper, and repositioned the motion sensors so that they triggered silent LED strips inside the garden center rather than audio pings. We couldn't afford noise. I added a delay trigger to the decoy speaker system. Instead of regular loops, it now operated off a randomized timer, controlled by a modified kitchen alarm. We placed it in a tamper-proof housing made from 2 old metal toolboxes welded together. If anyone tried to disable it, they'd trip the failsafe and set off a flare behind the fake entry point. It would draw attention, just not to us. Day 90 came and went. No contact, no noise. But the infected were returning, slowly. The audio loop was still doing its job. 6 of them by the pharmacy window, 2 near the tire center entrance. 1 just pacing, head twitching like something was wrong with the brainstem. Travis proposed a recon. He wanted to go west, toward the strip mall where the small security substation used to be. Said there might be backup gear left behind. He wasn't wrong. It had been a hub for auxiliary radio relay before the grid went down, but Evelyn shut it down immediately. Too far, too exposed. We couldn't risk it, not with people watching the lot. Carlos and I went instead to the nearby furniture outlet, barely a block away, and mostly clear of infected thanks to our audio deterrents. We needed foam pads, canvas, and metal framing, supplies to strengthen the basement hatch. Took us 40 minutes. Ran into one runner, thin, shirtless, bleeding from the mouth. Fast. Didn't react to distraction. We had to corner it inside a supply closet and crush the skull with a pry bar. Left the body behind. Didn't have time to burn it. Back inside, Amori helped reinforce the hatch tunnel with hollow pipes and metal bars bolted into the foundation. We welded sheet metal over the inner hatch lip, leaving a small slot for observation. Mia added a medkit mount and attached 2 LED lamps above it, angled for field dressing. If something happened up top, we could patch injuries without fully opening the door. That night, Evelyn set up a new log rotation. Every 4 hours, someone updated the activity board, recorded exterior movement, internal power stats, and food usage. We stopped thinking in days. We thought in shifts. Then, on what we now called Shift 7 of Cycle 24, the perimeter alarms went dead. No sound, no lights, just flatline. I was in the generator room when it happened. Carlos ran in, checked the inverters. No sign of overload. Mia confirmed the batteries were still charged. Travis looked at the internal lines. Someone had cut the connection just outside the garden center wall. We couldn't go out immediately. Too risky. Shade was pacing back and forth by the back exit. Brutus growled once and stood by the ladder. Evelyn watched the roof cam and didn't move. "They're on the roof," she said. Quiet, steady, like she was reading a shopping list. She was right. Camera 6, barely functional, wired through a long-range relay, showed 2 shadows near the edge of the skylight, small tools in hand, cutting through rubber seals. We responded fast. Everyone moved to positions. I climbed into the rafters above aisle 15, took position with a bolt-action hunting rifle scavenged from the sports section. Brent moved into the mezzanine crawl space with a pump-action shotgun, flashlight taped to the side. Carlos activated the floor deterrents. We waited. One figure leaned over the skylight, peering in. He had a headlamp, no insignia, no uniform, just regular street clothes layered with tactical webbing. I lined up the shot. Didn't take it, not unless he broke glass. He didn't. After 5 minutes, both shadows retreated. No breach, but it meant they were testing us. Not just probing, mapping. Later that night, we heard distant gunfire. Several bursts, then silence. Not near us, maybe a mile off. Evelyn guessed someone else was being targeted, or maybe the infected found them first. We powered down all unnecessary systems, hid the generator output behind a false heatsink, removed all exterior camera glint, pulled the roof ladder up into the attic and sealed the hatch from below with 2-inch rebar crossbeams. The next 3 days passed without incident, but none of us believed it was over. On Shift 4 of Cycle 26, Shade didn't return from a sweep. She usually looped twice around the upper level before heading back to Evelyn's station. Brutus barked, short, low, almost like a call. I found her near the electronics section, alive, cornered, tail pinned by a fallen speaker stand. I lifted it carefully. She didn't yelp, just licked my wrist once and limped back to base. We moved her to med station, bandaged the wound. Evelyn didn't say anything, but she stayed by her side all night. The next morning, Travis approached me, said he wanted to take a look at the southern ridge, an overpass barely visible from the roof cam. Said he'd seen figures up there, flashlight signals. We debated for hours. Finally, I agreed, but only if I went too. Brent volunteered as well. We prepped at first light. Small packs, minimal gear, 1 suppressed rifle, 2 handguns, 3 shortwave radios. Evelyn stayed back. Amori handled cameras. We left through the debris path at 5:40. Air was cold, no wind, no infected in sight. Halfway up the overpass ramp, we found a burned-out sedan. Bullet holes in the side. Blood smeared across the hood. Inside, no bodies. Just straps cut from the back seats and a broken radio handset. There was no stench. Whatever happened here wasn't recent, at least a few days old. I crouched next to the driver's door and tapped the metal. Cold. Flakes of paint crumbled off. The seats were half melted, curled in on themselves. Someone had torched it on purpose, probably trying to cover evidence. Brent stood guard while I checked the trunk. Inside was a single plastic case. Hinges melted, but the shape was still clear. An old supply crate. Maybe once held meds or tools. I didn't open it. Didn't matter now. Travis circled back from the edge of the barrier. He'd found more tags. Same stencil style as the X4 we found by the propane rack. This one was marked the 6B, tied with zip cord to a stripped highway mile marker post. There were 7 notches scratched into the steel beam behind it. Deliberate, tallied. We didn't stay. Too open. No cover from the west or south. Anyone watching from high ground would have already spotted us. We headed back down, keeping close to the median, checking every window and rooftop as we moved. About 5 blocks from the store, we heard something. Not footsteps, a dragging sound, something soft over pavement. We stopped, crouched behind a tipped-over vending machine. I pulled out the compact scope and checked the street ahead. There was a woman moving down the sidewalk, limping, clothes torn, face sunburned. No gear, no bag, no weapon, just bare arms and what looked like a cracked phone in her left hand. Her head twitched in half jerks and her mouth moved like she was whispering, but there was no one else around. Travis muttered, "She infected?" I watched longer. She didn't move like the others. No blood around the eyes. No open wounds. She didn't lunge or shamble. Just kept walking forward, talking under her breath to no one. We let her pass. No contact. No sound. She never looked our way. I didn't recognize the behavior. Could have been early-stage infection. Could have been trauma, starvation. Or maybe she wasn't real. But we weren't in a position to help anyone. Not out there. We got back to the Costco an hour before dusk. No breaches. The dogs met us at the back tunnel. Shade was limping less. Evelyn didn't ask questions until we were behind the second barricade. Then she just said, "Well?" I told her everything. The car, the tag, the notches, the woman. The fact that the overpass had a signal mirror facing southwest, aimed right toward the warehouse sector. It confirmed what we suspected. Someone was scouting fixed locations, tagging them, maybe even setting up rendezvous points. She didn't hesitate. "We need to collapse the route," she said. That night, Carlos and Brent took 2 5-gallon fuel drums and dragged them to the outer side of the garden fence. They poured it across the alley, soaked the strip between the store and the access road, laid down 2 lines of coiled copper to act as igniters. We wired it to a salvaged car battery and a thumb switch set inside a bait can near the main tripwire post. Anyone who tried to approach from that side would trip the pressure plate, triggering a ground-level ignition. It wouldn't set the whole alley ablaze, but it would torch the approach and send a clear message. 2 days passed without incident. Then, at 3:20 during Amori's shift, the bait can tripped. The fire lit up the lot for 12 seconds. One infected caught in it stumbled, screamed, and collapsed, but there was no sign of anyone else. No movement on camera. Whoever triggered it had been fast. Shade and Brutus were back on alert. They circled more, barked at empty hallways. We moved Evelyn's inventory to the loading dock break room and doubled the rotation on exterior cams. We also rewired one of the checkout conveyor belts to act as a trigger surface. If anything over 50 pounds stepped on it, it would ping a relay and light up a strip of bulbs in the upper rafters. On cycle 28, shift 3, I noticed one of the shelf traps had been disarmed. Not broken, disarmed. The fishing line had been clipped clean, no drag marks, no signs of a scuffle. Just a precision cut. That confirmed it. Someone had been inside. Briefly, carefully. I pulled everyone together, said we had two choices: fortify and wait for the next move, or go on offense and try to trace them back. Evelyn shut that down. "We're not exposing the shelter for curiosity," she said. "We're not ready for a fight." She was right. Instead, we doubled our traps, built decoy passageways, installed collapsing shelves on swing arms. If someone stepped too far into aisle 12, the structure would drop behind them, sealing them in with a spike board. Carlos designed it, said it would buy us 20 seconds. That was enough. We also used the store's mannequins more strategically, stripped most of them down, covered their heads in plastic sheeting, and dressed them in looted gear. From a distance, they looked like armed guards. We positioned them near corners and windows, held in place with metal wire and crossbars. It worked better than expected. On day 95, we spotted a figure approach the east garden corner, stop, stare, and retreat. No attempt to breach, no gunfire, just observation. We left the mannequin standing there another 3 days. Every time the camera caught motion, the figure reappeared in the same spot, always between 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock. That meant they were waiting for something. We kept tight. Food rotation remained stable. Water was filtered through the camping rigs, and gravity-fed barrels stacked near the western shelves. Solar power held, but we kept all non-essential systems dark. Brutus stopped sleeping upstairs. He slept next to the inner ladder now. Shade started watching the upper vents again. Her limp was almost gone. On cycle 30, Mia picked up a faint radio signal on the wideband. Static at first, then a voice. Male, calm, repeating the same message. Package ready. Location 4. Confirm visual. No name, no ID, no frequency ID tag. Just that phrase, over and over. We copied the recording, played it back. It had a slight echo, like it was being transmitted through a tunnel. Carlos thought it might be a rebroadcast from a short-range repeater. Evelyn marked Location 4 on our map. It lined up with the warehouse we passed on the overpass run, the same place the signal mirror pointed to. We listened for a response. Never came. Just silence after the 5th repeat. We stayed locked down for 3 more cycles. No movement. No breach. But the tension never left. We took shifts sleeping with radios clipped to our belts. I moved my gear into the basement full time. Brent installed a second lock on the inside of the stairwell, just in case. Then, on cycle 33, at 4:11, the power flickered. Just for a second. Then it went dark. All systems cut. Cameras, lights, motion sensors, vent fans, everything. I grabbed a flashlight and ran for the solar junction box. Carlos was already there. One of the inverters was melted. Wires scorched. It wasn't age, it was sabotage. Someone had shorted the main lead using a length of razor wire, forced it into the exposed node through the vent. It must have been planted earlier, timed, or remotely triggered. There was no other explanation. It wasn't weather. It wasn't where. Someone had climbed up during one of the dead shifts and slid that wire into place, knowing it would cook the junction when the panel hit max draw. Carlos bent over the inverter, tracing the burns. His knuckles were scraped from climbing onto the garden center roof twice that week already. He shook his head slowly, said nothing, then unplugged what remained of the fried wires. We didn't talk while we worked. There was nothing to say. We patched what we could using leftover copper, twisted splices, and clamps. The second bank of panels still worked, but but they weren't enough to power the entire system. At best, we'd get motion sensors and one camera string back online. The rest, lights, vents, Pennsylvania grid, had to stay off. I moved straight to the fuse box in the loading dock, shut down every circuit not tied to critical systems. Mia and Brent rigged 4 lanterns with switch toggles and mounted them along the primary interior route, pharmacy to command center. It was just enough for us to move without stumbling. Anyone else unfamiliar with the layout would be lost in the dark. Evelyn pulled down the emergency water filter rig from the mezzanine and shifted it to the basement. We'd be boiling everything now. No UV sterilizers. That meant more fuel use. It meant longer prep time for each gallon. It meant noise. But we didn't have another choice. We didn't sleep that night. The dogs didn't either. Just after 4 in the morning, Brutus gave his signal. 3 sharp barks. No growl. Not at random. It was his call for armed movement. Humans. Trained. Intentional. Camera 1 blinked on. Only that one was live. The feed was jumpy, powered by the smaller reserve. I watched 5 shapes sweep across the southern corridor. None wore uniforms, but they all had layered clothing. Tactical harnesses, gloves, taped ankles. They were moving fast. One carried a crowbar. Another had a bolt cutter strapped across his back. Evelyn was already in the tunnel, armed. She handed me the second radio and moved to lock down the ladder hatch. Amori took the backup relay and started watching through the upper shelf slits. The intruders didn't come straight in. They checked the perimeter first. One of them motioned to the others, fist up, fingers out. They stacked near the side door that we used to access the propane tanks, the same entrance where we'd found the plastic 4 tag. The man with the crowbar wedged it under the frame. Another pressed a flat pack charge against the rusted bolt plate. There was no explosion, just a low electrical pop, then a quiet hiss. Smoke maybe, some kind of thermal foam. When the lock housing sagged, they pushed the door open. The first tripwire didn't catch them. They'd seen it. The second did. It was hidden behind a flattened row of folded tent bags, barely an inch off the floor. One of them snagged it with his boot. It triggered the spikeboard drop in aisle 10. Heavy metal poles fell from above, crashing onto a pile of loaded carts we'd stacked as a fallback barrier. The noise didn't just echo inside. It rang out through the open rear corridor. Within seconds, the infected started moving. Camera 2, rebooted just long enough, showed the front of the store. At least a dozen infected pressing forward now, drawn by the sound. The moaning returned fast. Inside, we heard boots pounding down the long housewares aisle. I radioed Brent. He was in position with Travis above the shelving wall near the seasonal goods. Carlos was behind the freezer racks with a hammer and flashlight. Mia had locked herself in the pharmacy, rigging it as a fallback treatment room in case of injury. The intruders split into 2 groups. One tried to head up toward the office wing near the tire center. The other moved toward the garden center ramp. They still hadn't spotted our barricaded basement hatch. They were looking for loot, supplies, maybe even people to take. We waited until one of them stepped onto the conveyor belt at the main checkout row. It lit up the signal lamps in the rafters. That was our cue. Brent dropped a flash charge made from a fire extinguisher and 2 solar flare tubes. The blast stunned the group near the door. Travis followed with a warning shot. Just one, through the shelving wall. The round didn't hit anyone, but it pinged off the floor hard enough to let them know they'd been made. Then came the scream. One of the intruders had wandered into aisle 14. That was where we'd left the trip panel rigged with a collapsing gate. It had snapped down on his ankle. The bone was broken clean. He couldn't move. We didn't finish him. We didn't need to. The other 4 panicked. One ran into a side aisle and hit the glass display for camping gear. Another stumbled back and triggered the rolling trap, shelving carts full of scrap, preloaded to slam across the path. He went down hard. The third and fourth turned tail and made for the same exit they came through, but the infected had arrived. The moaning was louder now, closer. The parking lot was full. At least 20 Walking Dead swarmed the corridor. Brent motioned to hold fire. I nodded. We all pulled back. Let the building do the work. Within minutes, the two intruders trying to escape were caught. One got through the exit door but didn't make it 10 feet. The infected were too fast. The second didn't even make it that far. He tripped trying to hop the collapsed cart and was dragged into the shadows. The one with the crushed leg tried to crawl, but the bone was sticking out through the skin. I watched him drag himself across the tile. He didn't call for help, just gritted his teeth and pushed with his elbows. We didn't help. By dawn, the only sound was the infected dragging the corpses back toward the lot. We did a full sweep, found 2 knives, a map, 1 shortwave radio, and a burner phone with a solar panel attached to the back. No contacts, no texts, just a single image file, an overhead shot of the Costco, taken from high elevation, dated 2 weeks prior. The map had 6 locations marked. 4 were tagged with red circles and slashes. One of those matched the warehouse on the overpass. Another matched an old fire station we'd seen go dark back in month 2. The other 2 were unknown. Our location was marked with a yellow H. No other notes. Evelyn laid the map flat in the command room and traced the lines. They're hunting locations, caches, bases, anything fortified. Mia opened the radio and checked the battery. It was still warm. She turned the dial. Static, then a voice. Different this time. Younger, nervous. Repeating. Status check. Team 4, report. Package recovery incomplete. Repeat, report. We didn't respond. Carlos stripped the gear off the one body that remained intact. We dumped it out the rear chute. No reason to leave it where the scent might spread. We burned the clothes, crushed the phone, and added the intruder's weapons to our stash. One of the rifles was in good condition, an older bolt-action model with a scope. Not military, not hunting, something a prepper might carry. The other was a short-barrel .22 with an improvised suppressor built out of a flashlight tube and washers. It worked, barely, but the heat marks told me it had been fired a lot. We added both to the crate in the basement marked holdout, then locked it again. Travis wiped the blood off the folding knife and added it to the utility shelf near the workshop zone. Mia took the medical scissors, boiled them, and stored them in a fresh pack with antiseptics. Carlos took the hydration bladder from the pack and rigged it to the water catchment barrel. Nothing went to waste. Evelyn made us hold a silent meeting that evening. No lights, no radio, just hand signs, notepads, and quiet whispers. She used chalk on the concrete to draw a simple message. This was not the last group. No one disagreed. We weren't sure if the people we killed had sent the radio message or were answering it. Either way, someone knew they were gone. Someone would be waiting for them to check in. And if the map in that pack was right, we were the only known location still standing. That made us a priority. The next 2 days we worked without breaks. We removed every camera cable still visible from the outside, sealed every vent exposed to the roofline. We ran strips of aluminum foil across the outer corridors to catch reflection in case someone used IR optics. I even rubbed oil across the store's north-facing skylight to blur it, make it look cracked and useless from above. We moved our sleeping area deeper into the underground service corridor. The original break room, once a spot for meetings and rations, was gutted. We turned it into a false shelter, laid out cots, left fake journals, strung a burned-out string light through the wall. If someone broke in and found it, they'd think we were already gone. The dogs didn't relax. Not after that night. Shade stopped patrolling the mezzanine. She stayed on the lower level, close to Evelyn, sleeping with her head angled toward the tunnel exit. Brutus never left the hatch. He sat beside it for hours at a time, unmoving, listening. I pulled my cot into the mechanical room and started sleeping in shifts with Brent. One of us always awake. One of us always next to the relay panel. Evelyn adjusted the food ration slightly. More protein for those on overnight watch. less for those in daytime rest cycles. No one complained. On what would have been day 201, a new signal hit the radio, stronger this time, clearer, an English voice, male, flat, repeating every 15 seconds, resupply convoy rerouted, all survivors report to coordinates 5 Delta for extraction, window limited, repeat, 5 Delta. The coordinates weren't hard to read. They matched an old logistics hub outside the city, one of the big fenced-in depots built for regional food and medicine shipment. It had been burned out back in the second month. We had no reason to go. But the message was wrong. Too clean, no identifier, no background noise, nothing to suggest it was real, and the timing. Just after the raid failed, it felt too convenient. Evelyn marked it on the wall as Lure Message A. Carlos disconnected the antenna after that. Said we weren't listening to anything until we physically reset the gain tuner ourselves. The fewer signals we heard, the less likely we were to fall for something. That evening, Brutus growled again. Low, steady, different from before. I followed his stare up to the upper hatch and listened. Then I heard it too. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, not multiple. Just one. A scrape of a boot. Then nothing. Then another. We went still. Travis took the tunnel and climbed halfway up the ladder, ear to the panel. I waited at the base, rifle ready, watching the hallway. Brent took the second route around, covering the back. After 15 minutes, nothing. Silence. No follow-up sound. Shade was pacing now. She scratched once at the wall and sat down. We didn't sleep that night. Evelyn rotated people in and out of the observation spots. Mia drank 2 of the caffeine tablets we'd been saving and stayed awake past dawn. When morning came, the sound didn't repeat. Nothing on the roof, no shadows, no scent, no scratch marks, no evidence at all. We chalked it up to one of 2 things. Another scout checking for movement, or a test, a pressure check. By then, we were out of fresh solar cable. The fried sections couldn't be reused, and the replacements we made from copper lighting wire weren't holding. Carlos stripped the last outdoor set and told me the system might last another 24 hours if we didn't power anything outside the camera relay. That meant dark corridors again. I sent Brent and Amori out in full cover gear to hit the RV dealership 3 blocks down. They moved at dusk, cut through the field behind the used tire lot, and climbed over the busted chain-link fence. No infected in sight. The dealership had been looted, but some of the old solar setups were still there. They pulled 3 panels, 2 with damage, and dragged them back over 5 hours. One of the panels worked. Carlos plugged it in manually, tied it to the smallest inverter, and rerouted the power to charge 2 car batteries we'd kept in reserve. It wouldn't last forever, but it gave us motion detection back. 2 nights later, motion triggered on the east side, but this time, it wasn't people. Infected, a pack of them, 11, maybe 12, some fresh, some with twisted limbs. One had both hands missing, dragging itself forward using its elbows. They weren't meandering, they were moving with purpose, slow, but all in the same direction, toward our wall. We didn't trigger the lights, didn't play the noise. We watched, waited. They reached the outer debris field and stopped, as if confused. One stepped forward, bumped the plywood we'd leaned over the fake breach and recoiled. Then another sound, a whistle, long, drawn out, human. Not from them, from somewhere deeper in the lot, just outside our camera range. The infected paused, all of them, then one turned, 2 more followed. Within seconds, the whole pack started shuffling back the way they came. Brent whispered what we were all thinking. Someone's controlling them. The implications were worse than the event. We'd seen signs of raiders using infected before, herding them, trapping them in buses, turning them loose during thefts. But this was different. Calm, precise. measured, like someone was using the infected to probe. That night, Evelyn wrote one sentence on the chalkboard in the basement. Whoever's left, they know how to use the dead. We reviewed everything from the last 2 weeks. Every signal, every movement, every piece of gear stripped from the bodies. It all pointed in one direction. Whoever was watching us wasn't just scavenging. They were experimenting. Evelyn proposed a rotation shift to test response time. Every person was assigned a zone. Time yourself from the alarm to position. Report to the board. No excuses. No shortcuts. That became our routine for the next 3 cycles. Then, just before cycle 40 began, a message came through on the emergency shortwave. Unprompted. No signal from us. Just a clean, direct transmission. Signal 4. Status unknown. Movement terminated. Alternate asset activated. Interference confirmed. And then it cut. Carlos turned to me and said flatly, "They weren't here to take. They were here to test how fast we'd respond." We went silent after that. All comms off. No broadcasts. No incoming signals. No active lights. Nothing. And we haven't heard from them since. But the garden center still stinks like burned fuel. The dogs still sleep in pairs. The generator only runs for 90 minutes a day. We ration our noise just like we ration our food. 90 minutes of power, 8 quarts of boiled water, 1 tin can each for waste fuel storage. Every task is measured now. No room for missteps. Nobody complains. When someone misses something, a switch left hot, a trap unarmed, they own it, fix it, and move on. None of us can afford to be fragile anymore. Brent finished reinforcing the east tunnel 2 days ago. He welded half of a dismantled clothes rack to the lower rail, giving it enough bend to collapse under pressure and block movement in both directions. We tested it 3 times using loaded shopping carts. It held. Then Travis packed the top layer with broken tile and glass, made it dangerous to crawl across. The entrance is sealed for now, but if we need to use it as a backdoor one day, it's there. Mia redrew the medical layout. The pharmacy is now more than a station. It's triage, quarantine, and full storage. She converted 2 standing freezers into vertical cabinets, filled one with bandages, field wraps, antiseptics, and temperature-stable antibiotics. The other is packed with inventory from the supplement aisle, labeled and sorted by function. She built a sling out of ripped aprons and old belt buckles. It's ugly, but it works. Amory helped her mount it to the wall using pieces from the grill display. Carlos reworked the solar array again. The damaged panel is off the board entirely, and the remaining 2 have been cleaned, resealed, and bracketed to the west-facing emergency ladder, catching about 6 hours of usable light each day. He stripped down the entertainment display, the flat screens and demo tables, and salvaged all the copper from the HDMI cabling. Between that and some leftover wire from the paint aisle, he gave us enough flexibility to redirect a portion of power straight into a single rotating battery core. It's not much, but we now have motion sensor coverage across 3 primary entry zones, full backup lighting for the tunnel, and can even run the main camera string for 20 minutes at a time. Evelyn updated our routines. The wall chart is gone. She said the sight of it was starting to do more harm than good, reminding us of what we didn't have rather than what we did. Instead, we now use colored wristbands to track rotation, green for rest, red for perimeter, yellow for utility, and blue for support. We swap every 24 hours. It keeps things moving, balanced. Nobody slips through the cracks. The infected still roam the outer parking lot. Most don't stay. They wander through, drawn by the remains of the propane tank burns, or by the smell of what's left behind the dumpsters. A few linger longer. One in particular, a woman in what's left of a nurse's uniform, has been pacing the same 10-foot circle near the back entrance for 3 days now. We don't bother her. She doesn't bother us. But every so often, she tilts her head toward the mannequins and freezes, as if something about them catches her attention. Then she keeps walking. The scouts, the human ones, Haven't returned. Not since the last transmission. Not since the bodies were stripped, burned, and dumped. We haven't seen a whistle. No more signals. Not even movement. It's too quiet. But nobody's fooled by it. Silence is a phase. But we've adapted to silence. Amori has taken to reading again. She found a stack of paperbacks buried beneath the collapsed magazine rack. Old thrillers, survival guides, even a few worn-out schoolbooks that look like they belonged in a teacher's lounge. She reads aloud sometimes. Not to teach, just to fill the air. It's a quiet noise, but it keeps the nerves from fraying. Brent started training the dogs more. They know signal calls now. 1 short whistle means follow, 2 means hold, a snap, and a whistle means scout perimeter. Brutus responds the best, still protective, always in motion. Shade is faster, more precise, and better at picking up subtle shifts in smell and sound. They're both leaner now, but focused. They know what's expected. 2 weeks ago, we set up a garden plot in the east loading dock. Not much yet, just sprouting. Tomatoes, peppers, a few beans. We rigged grow lamps using bulbs from the home improvement aisle and hooked them into the battery grid. Only 30 minutes a day per section. It's not enough for a real yield, but it's better than nothing. It gives us something to care for. Travis built a signal kite out of trash bags, metal rods, and old fishing wire. He wanted to test line of sight to any radio towers still standing on the outer rim. He hasn't launched it yet. Weather's been inconsistent, but he keeps tweaking it, tuning it. Might try soon. Said if there's still a repeater alive out there, it might catch the signal and bounce it somewhere. Doesn't matter where, just somewhere. We took down the mannequin decoys this week. They served their purpose. Now they're a liability. Too visible, too easy to trace movement around. We disassembled them and used the torsos to reinforce the plywood panels near the west wall. Their hollow cavities now house sealed foam insulation. Their arms became barricade handles. The rest went into the burn pit. The air inside smells cleaner now. Not like before, not like home, but manageable. We keep vents open for 2 hours in the morning and 2 in the evening. The rest stays sealed. Evelyn tracks air pressure using strips of hanging tissue. It's crude, but if the breeze shifts or someone opens a gap outside, she knows. There's no illusion left here. We're not waiting for rescue. No one's coming. We've seen the maps, heard the broadcasts, traced the false signals. Most zones are dead. The ones that aren't are worse. Controlled by people who've given up on rules. But we're still here. We eat twice a day now. Smaller portions, fewer spices, no meat, but enough. We filter water, we boil, we rotate fuel, we mend clothes. We teach each other what we know. Shade sleeps against Evelyn's leg every night. Brutus curls up in the tunnel, just beside the hatch. Travis sleeps with a crowbar under his arm. Amori sleeps near the lanterns. Carlos keeps tools in reach even when he lies down. Mia's medkit is never more than 6 feet from her. Brent doesn't speak much, but he's always awake 10 minutes before his shift. I've never seen him miss a rotation. I've started writing logs again, not for broadcast, not for warnings, just to record, to remember what worked, what failed, what almost cost us. I don't know if anyone will read them, doesn't matter, they're for us. There's no final stand, no countdown, no last hope, just maintenance, just defense, just survival. And for now, we're good at it. Somewhere, someone probably still has us marked. Maybe another map, another photo. Maybe a group is waiting for the right moment to try again. Maybe not. Maybe the ones who tagged us were wiped out by their own trap, or by something worse. Either way, we'll be ready. We have light. We have water. We have food. And if we're quiet enough, smart enough, and fast enough, this shelter might hold another 200 days, maybe more. That's enough for now. That's all for now. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to keep the stories alive. For now, stay quiet, stay vigilant, and stay alive. Jack's Nightmares, signing off. Until next time, survivor.